what I tell you guys today is share some troubleshooting tips. One of the tools that has been instrumental in helping us is this lovely chopstick thing. Literally just a chopstick. We have these lovely collars come with your tower, but they are a bitch to get out. So what we do is just use a chopstick, and it's super easy. Well, now it's not working, but there we go. Just pops right out. Another way we can use a chopstick is, so in the YT, this is a double Y. I'm not sure if these actually work or not yet, but I don't have any of these single Ys to show you on. But how this works is the water is coming down through this tube and hits the back of this right here and kind of does a little swirl. And when the net cup is in there, it sits right like this. When the net cup is in there, the bottom of that rooter is far enough into the YT that it gets moist. So that's why when you can look at our tower here and it's angling forward a little bit, because if you angle the tower forward, it ensures that water gets interrupted as it comes down and does that little swirl around the base here. So I'm not actually sure if this double Y will work yet. I think it will if what you're planting already has roots, because if your root system is already where the water is going to be, then it seems like you're going to be fine. But when you're first starting out, when your plant is first starting out, if you're either too vertical or you don't have something to interrupt that water flow, your rooter dries out, and that's when you lose a seedling. So that's actually another place that we use a chopstick, is if you see one of your rooters is all the way dried out, it's probably to do with the stream. There's not enough of an interruption in the stream. So you can just take something like this and stick it down in there, like through the net cup. I guess it should be here. So then when you insert it into the YT, it's going to interrupt that stream and make sure your rooter isn't moist. Yeah, so Andrew's not with me here today. He's got a meeting right now, but hopefully he'll be able to join as soon as that's over. If you guys have any questions for me about hydroponics or our test tower here, this is my test tower in my bathroom, you can go ahead and drop those in the comments, and I will try and answer them. I'm just sharing some troubleshooting tips today. So another thing that happens often with my rooters is they get a little bit of mold on top. So because these are constantly wet and in a humid environment, sometimes we get a little deliciousness on top there. But what I do to get rid of that, I just use a paper towel and kind of sponge it off, and it seems to be fine. I think as long as you're washing your food before you eat it, you shouldn't worry about bacteria or whatever. Yeah, so I have one pump in this system. This is our Isabel system, and there's one pump in this bucket here, and it pumps, it's just an aquarium pump, so what you would get, at Lowe's or whatever. And it pumps all the way up to about 7.5 feet is what Isabel clocks in at, and then it splits at the top and trickles down in these two separate tubes. We have a system that's coming out shortly that will have 4 sections. It's shorter, it's about half the size of this, with the same amount of plant sites, but 4 sections. Do you have a book or site you would recommend someone to learn about hydro? Yes, so I would point you first to our YouTube page. One of my strengths is kind of a curating thing, so basically I've taken a lot of resources that I have found helpful, and we've linked them on our YouTube channel. Specifically, there's a section called What is Hydroponics that would be good for you to look at. Also, there's a website called hydrobuilder.com. They have really good resources. They spend a lot of time in trying to educate people about, what's the best system for you. And I can do a post about that probably today and give you guys a link to that. But Hydro Builder is a great resource. Another question from Adam is, how much did the setup cost, give or take? So, it's hard to say, also, there's a lot of, we tried a lot of stuff that didn't work, frankly. But I'd say with tools, you're probably all in about $250. This looks like Andrew's here. Dre, is that you?
It is me.
Okay, yay. So Andrew's gonna come join, so probably about $250. If you don't have any tools, we've tried to make it comparable on our website, so we do all the cutting for you and put a kit together and trying to make it easy. But if you have a lot of the tools yourself, like hole saws, and you have pipe cutters, and have a good resource for like a food grade reservoir that doesn't have $30 in shipping, then you could probably get this for under $200 perhaps. Looking to expand my irrigation sprinkler business. Right on, nice. Adam, does that include the lights and such? No, so we don't sell the lights because the technology changes so fast on those. And really, that is what we encourage you to upgrade as the technology gets better. So like our system, we're sort of selling it to you in a way, or we've designed it in a way that it should last a decade, 2 decades. Like it's just like kind of the plastic pieces and stuff that we know will be available in a hardware store in 10 years. So it's not like this proprietary thing that will break and you won't be able to fix it ever. So we don't sell the lights together with a kit because that technology changes so fast.
The other problem with lights is just honestly the supply chain. So a lot of them, as Mandy has mentioned, they've gotten a lot better and a lot cheaper recently, but they're sold on Amazon. The same light is sold under 3 or 4 different brand names at 3 or 4 different price points, even on the same listing, depending on when you check it. So if you're really thinking about buying some grow lights, my advice is to find them on Amazon or somewhere else. Find the ones you want. We recommend full spectrum, but then just kind of watch the price, because it can sway $10 or $20 one direction or another, even in a couple of days. So it's really, really difficult to be able to source those. We haven't found it yet, and then be able to provide a consistent price because it just fluctuates so much.
And if you look on our feed, we just got some new lights for our Hazel, and they're not like they say they look a certain way, and then you get them and it's like, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of them on the pictures, they might say whites. We just got these white ones and they're not. They're like pink purple. Yeah. But there are some that are very much, walking in, they're going to be purple because they have red and blue LEDs. And then others are kind of yellow. So the full spectrum ones that I have are actually closer to like 3200 Kelvin if you're a color temperature nerd.
Somebody said, Heather said, I've also spent a lot finding what doesn't work. Yeah, that's a lot of, yep.
I watched the building this video that you put up because I had forgotten all of the crap that we had done in here, or you mostly had done in here. And we failed a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really funny when people are like, oh, you go through so much to take a shower. And it's like, yeah, it used to take me a lot longer because I had so much more shit in here because we were using like buckets and anyways. trying your first hydro potato now. That's awesome. Good for you. Are you using a light or just on the side of your sunshine? Or someone else asked, how did cleaning work? The cleaning went fine, really. It was less involved. It wasn't that bad, I guess. But I also couldn't get it as clean as I maybe thought I could. Because the plant matter just kind of sticks to the plastic, so I don't know. But I don't know. I hope it's fine. Okay. So if you're just joining us, we're answering questions about our home hydroponic tower. So hydro or plants or food or beverages. Go ahead and drop a comment below if you have a question or a comment. Another thing, I was just kind of going over like troubleshooting with people and how we use our chopsticks.
Oh yeah.
But I don't have a regular YT, so I was showing on our double YT, which we have not tested if this works or not yet. In theory.
In theory. Oh yeah. I actually asked for chopsticks for Christmas because I use them so much. And for everything. Especially too, like if you have some leca, like the lightweight expanded clay aggregate stuff. And occasionally there'll be like a little bit of mineral buildup or something on the top and you need to just get one out. It's like little chopsticks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many uses.
Okay, so we have a question from Adam. Can this be done in a cooler basement? And do I need dehumidifiers and such? So like temperature wise, you want to keep, it's like what's most important is the temperature of the water. And like our container is small enough that if your air temperature is comfortable for you, it's probably going to be comfortable for your plants. That being said, we don't recommend getting your water temperature over 75 degrees.
Yeah, usually the problem is with the water getting too hot and not too cold. So down to like even 55 degrees. So if it's, a basement, for lettuce especially. So if you're in a basement and that water, plants are going to love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as a dehumidifier, almost maybe you'd want a dehumidifier depending on...
it really depends on your situation, but this doesn't create much humidity. So, there's only 3 gallons of water in it. Sometimes people have like a 10-gallon fish tank or even bigger sitting out, and no one's really worried about humidity and evaporation from that. So it's the same deal. It's a closed system. Most of the water actually gets used by the plants and isn't put out into your... of course, plants put out a little bit of air or humidity into your air, but it's really not that much. This isn't the main culprit. So what Mandy was saying is some plants, though, do need a certain amount of humidity to thrive. Some, especially like houseplants, calatheas, people historically have problems with because it's not humid and they get crispy tips and all of that. Mm-hmm. So that's why, if anything, check your relative humidity levels, and you can find what levels your plants like online, what humidity levels lettuce likes, and then you might need a humidifier, you might need a dehumidifier, but most of the time you don't even have to worry about it. Yeah,
you probably won't have to worry about it, especially with such a small surface area and stuff. And if you have plants at all at home, you won't notice a difference. If you have 0 plants, you might notice a difference.
A small fan for circulation, I was just looking at.
If you have a tiny setup, sometimes a small fan for circulation. Absolutely. We definitely recommend having a fan. And like I was showing you on some mold does still shows up at the top even with fan. But yeah, my fan is kind of a wuss one in here.
Okay. There's also a huge problem in my house. Yeah, I grew up in one of those. Maybe super humid in the basement. Definitely remember running a dehumidifier in the summer, but it shouldn't contribute too much to the humidity in your house. Not more than a fish tank would. So
yeah. So if you're just joining us, we're just answering questions about our home hydroponic systems, or hydro, or plants, or other things like that. So drop a question below if you have one. We did have a bunch of questions this week about root vegetables.
Everybody's so thirsty for those root vegetables. I don't know.
I know, yeah. What I was thinking about today was, like, if you really have an idea about what your goals are for what you're growing hydroponically, get an idea of what your goal is first. So are you trying to save money? Are you trying to eat healthier? Are you trying to live more sustainably? Those all maybe have, or are you trying to keep your houseplants alive? Like, those all maybe have different plants that you would be planting, different planting plans, and can contribute to timelines and that kind of thing.
A bubbler. So actually, I got another question about. Someone asked if we'd put an air stone in there. Actually, we don't need to aerate the water in the bucket, because the water goes up this tube and then trickles past all these plants and then turns off for 15 minutes. So the plants are exposed to oxygen in the air for 15 minutes when there's not even any water running past them. So you don't have to add extra oxygen to the water. It gets aerated when it travels up and falls back down because it's exposed to a lot of oxygen that way as well. So there's no need for an extra bubbler in the bucket. You would need a bubbler in a bucket, like a Dutch bucket or deep water culture situation where you're growing a root vegetable. Because there's no way that the water isn't moving around. It has to get oxygenated somehow, and that's why the extra oxygen helps in that case. But in this case, the oxygen is taken care of by the water moving around a whole bunch and the plants being exposed, their roots being exposed to oxygen for a cycle of off period.
It's kind of Willy Wonka-like, actually.
It is. Yeah. A lot of people have also asked if we put fish in there, and I suppose you could, but trying to keep plants alive is enough for me. So
yeah. And we're trying to just, make something at like the cheapest best that we can help people just understand basic hydro first, and then you can grow and change with the system that you want. So if you wanted to explore using fish, our bucket is quite small, so I wouldn't recommend that. But with our bucket, but you could use the whole system, get a different reservoir, and figure out your fish.
So is the pump attached to a timer?
Is the pump attached to a timer then, or is it built in? Yes. Didn't realize it was on and then off. Yes. So we have a couple of timers in our system. One comes with the system that is attached to the pump, and we have a mechanical timer that is on for 15 minutes and off for 15 minutes. That is a little subjective. In a commercial hydro, they get as specific as like to the millisecond, maybe, I don't know. We aren't getting that specific. We're just trying to have something that works. So
but all the cycles are typically 1-to-1, so it's like 1 minute on, 1 minute off, or 15 minutes on, 15, or 30. So the mechanical timers that you can buy inexpensively, the smallest increment is 15 minutes, which seems to work great for the plants and is a pretty cheap thing to get. So that's one timer.
And then when you buy lights, it's a good idea to have a timer for your lights too. My plants in here get 16 hours on, 8 hours off. Andrew's get 12 on, 12 off. So we basically, I say like as long as you can stand, basically, as long as you give your plants a resting period as well.
Yeah, they do need the dark to complete some of their biological processes. 15 minutes, yeah, I mean, but we've had good success because the water the plants aren't soaking in it, the water is running past it. Mm-hmm. Even 30 works okay, and the plants are big and healthy and totally fine. So, if there's the shorter intervals are good. Actually, watering is constant in our system, so the water has to flow constantly even when the lights are on. So it's just a on-off cycle all day, and that's pretty similar to how the commercial hydro stuff works. Someone mentioned that they failed at aquaponics. Yeah, that's why we haven't tried, and it also smells bad, which is another reason that has kept us away because, that is.
It'd be hard for us as a business to say, here are your 6 goldfish, and,
Plus just even, the nutrients would also have to, are like completely different then, because you don't put nutrients into the bucket. The fish, poop, and you have bacteria and other natural things that you have to keep everything alive. and manage all of the levels of a lot more things than we have to think about. Now it's just, are there enough nutrients in the bucket? Nope. Okay, add some more. Very simple.
Are you recirculating the water? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So we change the water about every 2 weeks.
No, we don't drain it. It recirculates. Yep. So it starts in this bucket down here, goes up to the top, circulates through, and then comes back, and then just keeps going.
Heather used guppies, which reproduce very quickly. Okay, yeah, sure. That's cool. Yeah, if you have video or anything of your system, would love to see it. If you just mention us, I figured out how to actually see those comments. So, so if you mention us, we'll see it now. 2 weeks is a long time. I usually change tanks weekly. Yeah, I mean, it's a guideline. Like I'm lazy, so I'm gonna let it go as long as I can before my plants are upset at me. And generally we found with the amount of nutrients that last in our bucket, it's about a 2-week cycle, depending on how old your plants are though, because when they're older they eat more.
They do, they consume more. But what I do frankly is I have a second bucket that I use and add to, because the plants do use quite a bit of the water, and it's just quite frankly easier for me to add the nutrient mix. You don't want to leave nutrient mix just sitting around for months at a time, but I have so many hydro plants that I go through it, and I can just kind of top off my bucket. So the issue in the water is that you have to make sure that it's the pH level is stable, the electrical conductivity, or there's enough nutrients in it, and that it's oxygenated. And so if you can maintain all of those things, then the plants still stay happy. So Mandy can get away with an extra week of, because it has enough nutrients, And again, if you're going for max efficiency, yeah, change your water more often, tweak your nutrients, tweak your lights, all of that. We're really just going for a very general, easy to use setup. So we know we're not as efficient as we possibly could be, but it's more livable, I guess, with the choices that we made for us. It might be more livable for somebody else who's more interested in to build that into their life. But really, that's the whole point, is that it can be flexible and you can scale it up or down however you want.
Heather's interested in making your own nutrients. Yeah, we have not done any of that, but there are I've seen a lot of people on TikTok that do their own compost teas and stuff, and I think that's really interesting. It'd be hard for us as a business to make something that's consistent that we can sell to people, but I think that's a really cool thing, for sure. Adam asks, how long before they yield anything? Yeah. Oh, is it faster or slower? Is it faster or slower than the ground? It's much faster than growing in dirt, because when your plants have consistent lights and consistent access to basically however much water they want, and if you're doing your nutrients consistently, then they can grow about 25% to 30% faster than what happens in soil.
And that's, commercial growers can get that, because they squeeze every piece of efficiency out of the growing cycle. Mm-hmm. So plants use different spectrums of light at different stages, when they're a seedling versus when they're flowering or fruiting or whatever. And commercial grow operations give them different spectrums of light depending on where they're at, because it's more efficient. They use less power, it's directly there. They give them different nutrients at different times. I can't keep all of that in my brain. I can keep this one thing in my brain and let it go. So really the time it takes, it is faster than the ground, but it always just depends on the how long the plant takes to develop. So herbs are usually pretty fast. I think I just planted some the other day and I've already got one sprouting. That's really cool. But like I have this cabbage growing on my wall that I've wanted to rip off of it for 2 weeks because I'm so tired of staring at it. It's been months. I posted a video about it. I'm like tired of waiting for it. So definitely some things go faster, some things go slower. And I could probably make my cabbage grow faster if I was like really interested in growing cabbage, but I'm not, so I'm just going to be patient, I guess. I'm going to complain about it.
Right. Is there a taste difference between... Oh, is there a taste difference because of the lack of flavors from the ground, soil, fruits, and such? So probably yes, definitely, because like you think about... like in Italy, they grow these very specific lemons for limoncello, which I'm making later today, which is why I'm thinking about it. But and the lemons taste a specific way because of like how the soil is composed there. So like I think that's a really interesting thing to explore, and using different things in your nutrients to get different tastes. You know, we are not commercial growers.
But even though it may not taste exactly like it does growing in the ground somewhere, it still tastes really good. Like there are, I mean, some folks have had really bad luck with growing like hydroponic cucumbers that taste like nothing. You know, some of those things that have more produced fruit are maybe a little bit harder. But the peppers that we've grown in terms of fruit have been really tasty and great. All the lettuce and basil and everything actually, to me, has a stronger flavor coming straight out of the tower because it didn't get cut off, put into a truck, moved across the country, refrigerated, sat in a grocery store for 3 days before I brought it home, and then put it in my fridge for 2 days before I ate it. Literally, when you cut the roots off and you stick it in your mouth, there is a flavor difference that I really enjoy because I feel like I'm tasting lettuce and not water.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a texture difference too. Like, well, there's a texture difference between this and what you would eat from a store. Probably if you're used to growing from a garden, it's probably similar to that, yeah. But yes, the taste will be different, but still very good, we think.
What are our favorite things to grow? What are your favorite things to grow, Mandy?
Well, my favorite thing right now, I'll show you right now.
Oh God, she's gonna pull it out. She does this every day. Tell her to stop.
You can see the roots here.
Show them the top.
I want it to focus. These are string of turtles. God damn it. Well, I just love them. They're beautiful.
So Peperomia prostrata, that is that one. And everything online is like, this plant you're gonna kill it by overwatering it. Be really careful. I water my peperomias like cacti. I mean, I just let them completely dry out. So I was really skeptical that it was gonna work in here, but it's doing awesome. Those roots are going, and yeah. So yes, it towers.
Almost everything we've tried has grown.
I personally like pepperoni. No, I wish that'd be fun. Pepperoni plant. Peperomia prostrata. One of my favorite things to grow are honestly basils, because they, you know, I grew up thinking my parents were not gardeners. I grew up thinking basil tastes like basil. Turns out there are whole different kinds of basil that I didn't know about, and that's super exciting to me because they grow fast and they have very strong flavor, and it's like kind of instant gratification reward. So I like that.
Yeah, I think the fast-growing plants are really interesting to watch grow, because if you aren't a plant person or haven't had a garden in the past, you know, and you've had like a houseplant that takes years to even have a difference, it's really interesting to see these fast-growing plants that you can see a difference in a day. It's like, oh shit, like it's so that has helped me actually get interested more in plants as a thing. But things that grow fast are lettuce, basil, tarragon apparently.
Yeah, that was Adam has a really great question. What's the biggest thing that you would tell someone who wants to start do's and don'ts?
I would say, so like one of the largest barriers to starting to grow hydroponically is the cost. And because there's kind of a bit of a learning curve, and it's kind of expensive to start if you don't have a good resource. I guess we are trying to be that resource for you. So there's that.
So I think maybe the first thing is like do some research and figure out what options are available for systems, because there are a ton of systems out there. You know, when we were designing this, we actually were trying to buy one first. There are some that come in these beautiful cabinets that are really big and expensive and have integrated smartphone apps, and if you can afford it, cool. We can't, so we were like, what are we going to do? So first is do your research, look at all the different systems available and how they grow. We spent a lot of time watching hydroponic YouTube videos, and we're thinking about how could something like this fit into my life. So I would say the first thing is be curious and go watch a bunch of videos and see how people are doing it. So you get a sense of what it would look like in your space. The other thing is then I'd say just be aware of what you're buying when you get into. So some of the hydroponic systems have these really cool seed things that they'll send you with like a microchip in it, so it connects to your smartphone and it knows how to do the lights and all of that stuff, which is cool. But then you don't really learn anything about how your plants grow. You know that you order a pod for $2, which is overpriced, and then you stick it in the tower and your smartphone tells you when it's time to take it out. I don't know, maybe that can fit your life better, so do that. Or if you want to learn a little bit how different plants grow and that, a ton of stuff available on YouTube.
Yeah, I think what we were talking about earlier is basically like figure out what is your goal. You know, are you trying to eat healthier? Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to live more sustainably? Are you trying to save your houseplants? And if one of those four things like is a goal, then that can help you decide what system you need and what you need to plant in order to accomplish those goals.
And especially if you do have some experience like with houseplants even, or gardening, the concepts here are going to be super simple. Like, you know that if you're a houseplant person, I cut a plant in a node and I put it in some water and it'll propagate. Well, instead of putting it in some water, you just put one of these on, drop it in the tower, and that's it. Just what you do with it's a little bit different. And instead of thinking about, oh, I need to remember to water it, it's just I need to check my nutrients and pH. So just small adjustments, but all of the concepts for if you know how to take care of plants are going to apply, and this is going to be pretty easy to pick up, I think.
Yeah, that is something that we haven't talked about a lot, is propagating and cloning, using this as a propagation and cloning tool. So if you're an outdoor gardener and you have one tomato plant from Lowe's and you want 16 tomato plants, you can cut it up and have 16 tomato plants in 2 weeks that are ready to plant outside. This isn't, we don't market it as a cloner because then it's like, what do you do with it after that? Well, you can clone more plants, I guess, or you can then grow something more permanently. But
a few folks are talking about reusing onion stuff, and I think Mandy, you are planted some green onions from the grocery store in here.
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about recently too, is like with commercial hydro booming and that type of thing, having a system like this at home is beneficial for you to grow your own food, but it also can be used as just a food saver. So like if green onions are the thing that we've tested, which you can save on your windowsill, but you have to remember to change the water, it gets gross. With this, you just stick it in there, and I had them for 60, 70 days. They regrew several times. So you think about, they're even selling they're selling lettuce now with the roots attached. Like anything that you get from the store with the roots attached, you can basically just stick it in your tower and it'll continue to live,
So Mandy did an experiment once where we took a lettuce that was like, we were done with it. We were just going to see, well, how long is it going to live outside of the tower? And we put it in some water, and the damn thing tried to keep growing.
Yeah.
You had to put it in the dark, right?
Yeah. I tried not to give it any light, and it kept growing.
So even outside in just water, no nutrients, it was like, I got my roots, I'm gonna go.
But I saw a TikTok yesterday that I was going to talk about, that they took a lettuce leaf and submerged it in water, put that in the fridge, and then it was fine after a month. Like she took it out and it was totally crispy. So it's like maybe we need to be having more conversations about like how these instruments are designed to keep or not keep our food. I don't know.
Just kind of blew my mind a little. So
if you guys are just joining us, we are answering questions about our home hydroponic system, hydro in general, or plants, or beverages.
When did we do, Mandy, the planting video in my tower? When did I put those seeds in? Do you remember? How many days ago?
Which ones?
I'll have to look here.
The kale?
Yeah, the num num basil and the kale and the.
Oh, the one you just did. That was only a couple of days ago, I think.
I got a sprout already.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the water trickling past, you know, if you have a stem in that comes down into here and the water trickles past every 15 minutes, that's like basically like your plant being in a waterfall. So it's one of the quickest ways to get roots to pop out.
The only thing about using it for propagation is don't leave it in here too long. If you are planning to plant it in dirt, have 1.5 to 2 inches of roots and then get it in dirt. Because if you let the roots develop for longer than that in the tower, they're going to develop some water roots, which are great for living in water, but when you plant it in dirt, it'll be really sad because it's not used to that. It hasn't grown and developed that way. So if you're planning to plant in dirt, snag them out of there when the roots are 1.5 to 2 inches long, and you'll have less issues. There are ways to transition water roots to dirt, but if you grab them ahead of time, you'll be just fine.
But honestly, like, we've been transitioning more and more of our houseplants to hydro, and probably will continue to do that because dirt is a pain in the butt.
Because I'm thinking about transferring. Do they transfer well? Sorry, I don't know.
Probably transferring like from water to dirt.
Oh.
Is that like what we just were talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you have a I don't know, you decided to spend a lot of money on a really expensive house plant and you really want it to live in dirt. How do you translate? Whatever. If you want to transition it to dirt, one way if the water roots are exceptionally long is to put that in sphagnum moss for a period of time, like I'd say at least a month, and let the sphagnum moss retains a lot of water, like a lot, and the roots will harden up a little bit. In that, it's more like dirt, but it's not quite there. And then if you transition it to dirt after that, so best thing is catch them before they get too long. If they're really long, put them in sphagnum for a month, and then put them in dirt.
The only time it's worked okay for me is when I planted in Rockwell and transferred before Vic. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, bees. Oh, cool. Getting into some bees.
Oh, yeah. We haven't ran into any pollinating problems so far with our small little gardens, but
yeah. It is true that, like, the peppers, I had to take a paintbrush and pollinate because there aren't any bees inside our house.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So if you do have fruiting plants, you probably will have to invest in a tiny paintbrush and go around and just make sure that they're pollinated. But did you do that for Ziggy too?
No.
Oh, okay. Ziggy just figured it out.
Well, I think they say when you have like a fan or you tap it enough, brush past it enough, it'll like. But I don't know. Yeah, she's made me fine. So, yeah. What other questions you guys have? Wouldn't it be cool to have indoor butterflies? Oh my gosh, yes. Actually, I'm like sort of deathly afraid of butterflies and bees. I'm like super nervous about things getting in my ears for some reason. But yeah, where we live close to Omaha, and they have a indoor butterfly exhibit at the zoo there, and that's kind of stuff of nightmares for me, to be honest. But it'd be good for pollinating all our things, yeah.
So I should get you for a birthday, just a butterfly box in your apartment.
Oh my god.
Praying mantis.
Oh man, so the peppers that we grew this summer, I got really sick of them because they were huge and in my shower and terrible to work around. So after we had eaten a bunch of them, I took it and tried to plant it outside, and it didn't work. But a praying mantis started living in there for a while, and I have some really good footage of it. They're super cute.
According to Clint's Reptiles, free plug for you, Clint, YouTube channel. They make great pets. Not long lived, but.
All right, guys. Well, if you have other questions, drop them below. Otherwise, we'll be here, especially if you end up buying a system from us and you have questions. Like, we're here every week, so we want to make sure that the thing is working in the way that we want it to work for you. So.
Yeah. We're about access and want to help folks. If there's something that we can explain better, we need that help too, because we're just trying to, we don't know what folks don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to do our best to explain and help people figure out if this is right for them.
Cool. Okay.
Cool.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining.